The member for Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Urban Infrastructure. Will the minister explain to the House the significance of the government's response to the Infrastructure Australia 15-year plan? How will other initiatives support the government's $50 billion infrastructure investment program? And is the minister aware of any alternative approaches?
The Minister for Urban Infrastructure.
Well, I do thank the member for Robertson, who has a strong interest in infrastructure and is a very strong voice for her electorate. And as she rightly observes, today the government responded to the 15-year plan, which has been released by Infrastructure Australia, provided to the government earlier this year, and we've announced a number of key initiatives as part of our response to this important plan. The government has announced that we will be working with state governments to agree urban rail plans for Australia's 5 largest cities and their surrounding regions to inform future Commonwealth investment. We've indicated that we'll be progressing the next steps for heavy vehicle user charging reform. We've announced that we'll be establishing a study led by an eminent Australian into the potential benefits and impacts of road user charging for light vehicles, recognising that any change here would be a 10 to 15-year journey and go ahead only if it met tests of fairness, better roads and vehicles able to move around more freely. We've announced a data collection and dissemination plan for transport and a national freight and supply chain strategy. Mr Speaker, these initiatives build on the Coalition's $50 billion spending program in relation to transport infrastructure, and when you add in other infrastructure, including the national broadband network and water infrastructure, the Coalition is spending $80 billion on infrastructure. That is our commitment to infrastructure, consistent spending and policy direction informed by Infrastructure Australia, the government's independent advisor on infrastructure. Now, I'm asked if there are any alternative approaches to infrastructure policy as contrast to the approach where we've taken. There is an alternative approach that the Leader of the Opposition is putting. That might be called his look away for $11 million approach, because the fact is that the industrial action, the corruption, the criminality of the CFMEU that we see on building sites all around Australia means that Australians are paying more for infrastructure than they would need to pay if the rule of law applied on building sites. According, for example, to an analysis conducted by Deloitte for Master Builders Victoria, an extra $621 million over 4 years is what has to be paid to meet the infrastructure program of the Victorian government. $621 million. That would buy a lot of schools, roads and hospitals. But I guess for $11 million you look away. The Leader of the Opposition was asked about this on 7:30. Lee Sales said to him, Labor continues to accept donations from the CFMEU. He said, you're right, I do have no tolerance for union corruption. Some of the reports which come out of the Royal Commission, you see officials taking members' money, just make me sick to the guts. Sounds like Captain Renault in Casablanca. I'm shocked to find out that gambling is going on in here.